All right, thanks for joining us. This is year 2 of the Cole Region Football Thursday Night Tailgate. This is our intro to the 2014 season. What we're going to do is kind of review a little bit of the Anthracite Football League and what happened last year, and preview what's to come this season, and specifically in week 1. The purpose of this show, as it was last year, is to promote Cole Region sports, specifically Cole Region football. And what we do is we focus on the Anthracite Football League. For those of you that have seen our show last year, thanks for coming back. You'll notice we got some changes. First of all, we are live from the Summit Hill Legion, Post 316. Thanks for having us. They were our host twice last year, and it's much appreciated. You may also notice that Coach Matthew Davis and Coach Paul McGartle are no longer by my side. They have moved on, and the Thursday Night Tailgate is Panther Valley's game. But luckily, we got 2 local celebrities here to come in, and I think this transition will be pretty seamless. We got John Cooper, who has been covering games for WMGH and WLSH, and we got Brad Hurley from the Times News. So guys, hey, thanks. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, we'll be. I'm looking forward to it.
No doubt. I'm very excited.
All right, cool. So Anthracite League, we're actually here in 2014, and it's hard to believe that the league started in 2002. And you know, boy, time flies, and you know, the league is evolving, but you know, it's Cole Region football at its finest.
Yeah, I mean, the league, like you just said, Pat, the league started in 2002, was then called the Anthracite 8. North Schuylkill then joined the league in 2007, changing the name to what it is now as the Anthracite Football League. Schuylkill Haven was your first winner back then. So your top 3 teams since the league started in 2002 has been North Schuylkill with 3 championships, Schuylkill Haven with 3 championships, and Jim Thorpe with 4 championships. And that year Jim Thorpe won it. It was a 3-way tie. It was Marion, Shenandoah Valley, and Jim Thorpe. So they still have that extra one, but now they have 4 in 10 years. And you know, this season, like you said, it's in my opinion the best season it's ever going to be. I mean, I think the team really from probably the top 7 teams in the league, anybody can win it from that standpoint. And like you said, the addition of Lehigh and Blue Mountain that joined this year, and Pottsville that joined in 2016. Then you're going to look at small school and big school division. So now you're getting into kind of a almost like a college power conference type of thing going on, where you're going to have a big school division, small school division. The way we mapped it out, you know, all the writers and radio guys and even fans at home and everybody that knows Cole Region football, the big school division is going to look like this. It's going to be North Schuylkill, Jim Thorpe, Pottsville, Blue Mountain, Tamaqua, and Lehigh. And your small school division is going to be Marion, Schuylkill Haven, Monoy, Minersville, Shenandoah Valley, and Panther Valley. And how they work over the crossover games is yet to be determined. But it's turned into a pretty significant league. And as people have seen in the past, Cole Region football is here. It's here to stay, and I think we're excited about the direction it's going in.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, and it certainly has changed, you know, since inception in 2002. So a lot of those changes that we talked about are coming in 2016. The season we're looking at now, this year, 2014, preseason coaches poll just came out. And what do you think? Any surprises, or kind of what you expected?
Kind of what I expected, and like Brad was saying, the most surprising thing was that this league actually did start in 2002. Like when I went back and looked at that, I was like, wow, we've been doing Anthracite football for 14 years already. I mean, I'm sorry, 12 years already. But yeah, the preseason poll is kind of what we expected. North Schuylkill on top of the poll. They received 7 of the first place votes. Lehigh came in after them with 2 first place votes, and then Schuylkill Haven and Blue Mountain 3 and 4. Rounding out the top 5 was Marion, and then the bottom 5 of the preseason coaches poll, we finished with Tamaqua, Jim Thorpe, Mon Area, Panther Valley, Minersville, and Shenandoah. So like we were saying, you know, top 5, 6 I think are legit. I think those top 3 of North Schuylkill, Lehigh, and Schuylkill Haven are definitely where they should be as far as being ranked. You know, all powerhouses with a lot returning, so should be interesting.
Yeah, I thought there was a few interesting things about the preseason coaches poll. One thing that jumped out, you talk about the depth and the quality of this league now. Tamaqua is number 6 in the preseason coaches poll.
Yeah.
And you look at how Tamaqua have been, you know, in the last 8 years under Coach Bonner, and, you know, just the physicality of that team, and, you know, how they've been every year. And, you know, I just think that speaks to the depth of the league. Also, thing that jumped out was, the two additions of the league, Lehigh and Blue Mountain coming in, getting a ton of respect right off the bat before they play a game in the AFL at numbers 2 and 4. So, they right off the bat, everyone feels like they're going to be forced to be reckoned with.
Well, Lehigh played in that huge, Mountain Valley Conference where they were one of the smaller schools. Now they get to go on the other side of it, be one of the bigger schools, and they're a tough physical bunch of kids because they've been playing those big schools. A lot of those schools they played were, had one-way players, where the Lehigh kids were going 2 ways. And I saw them play Strasburg last year, and Strasburg brought 70 kids down in pads. Nobody played 2 ways, and both sides of the ball, and they lost a 13-6 ball game.
Yeah.
They're a tough team. We'll talk more about them later.
I think another thing that's very Jim Thorpe once again set 7th, and they were 7th last year, and they ended up winning the whole thing.
Yeah, the defending.
So I don't think Coach Rosenberger's upset about that at all, because last year they were 7 out of 9 and they ended up going 7-1 in the league, and their only loss was to Schuylkill Haven, who had some injury problems, got everybody back, unfortunately, at that Jim Thorpe game, and they only went on to win the District 11 title, and then went into states and lost to Old Forge. So I mean, it's just not like Jim Thorpe lost to somebody that they shouldn't have. But Jim Thorpe at 7. That's why I said I really think those top 7 teams can really. I mean, it's a toss-up. I mean, obviously you have your North Schuylkill, Lehigh, and Haven right there, and in my opinion, Haven isn't the top team because they're so small. But my opinion, Haven's the best team in the league. I mean, with what they have coming back, but I really think those top 7 teams could really have a chance to win the league this year.
Yeah, and you mentioned Thorpe last year. And, I remember last year going back and forth, and we were talking about North Schuylkill, and we we're talking about Haven, and we we're talking about Tamaqua, who was at that point was the defending league champs, and we weren't the only ones not mentioning Jim Thorpe,
right.
And that wasn't
exactly
what anyone was thinking at that point.
It was one of those things that kind of stuck up like week 7, 8 years ago. Hey, Jim Thorpe might win this thing. Like this happens. Jim Thorpe's going to win this thing, and they did. So great job, like Coach Rosenberger.
Yeah, it really was. It made it such an exciting year, and looking back, I'm trying to think if there was a bigger surprise through the years, and I really can't find one.
No.
They kind of came out of nowhere, coming off back-to-back 1-9 seasons. Couldn't be more impressed by the job that they did last year, and so yeah, I'm sure they're not too upset about being there at number 7 in the preseason poll once again this year. But with the addition of Blue Mountain and Lehigh, one of the things that jumped out at me is that there's games that you're not going to see. It's the way the schedule falls.
Right.
There's certain teams that just aren't going to play each other, and I think that's going to be interesting to see how that plays into who's going to be the league champ. Because for example, one right off the bat that I started looking for was when does Haven play Lehigh? I thought that was going to be, and they don't. As we get into our team previews, we'll talk about personnel a little bit, and Jim Thorpe Marion always been a rivalry. The kids from
a lot of kids from Jim Thorpe go to Marion.
Exactly, they know each other. They grew up together. I believe Marion had a kid that is now over at Jim Thorpe, which we'll talk about a little bit, and they're not going to play each other. So.
Exactly.
I think it's going to be interesting to see not only this year but in the future how that plays into where the league standings fall.
Sure. Especially when they go 2 divisions and we start talking about this crossover.
Yeah.
Small schools going to have to play the big schools. What kind of disadvantage did that put them at? So it'll all work out.
I think they did do a good job of making sure that 10th week's a rivalry week. Jim Thorpe Lehigh, and then you have your Schuylkill Haven Blue Mountain game. But I think it's important. I don't know what they can do, and obviously we have no say in it.
Right.
But as guys that live around this area, we'd like to see Jim Thorpe, Marion, Tamaqua, Panther Valley, Lehigh,
Sure.
All those teams marry and play each other every year. We don't want to miss that game, and obviously the schools don't want to miss it because Jim Thorpe, if that's a home game for them, they're making a lot of money at the gate.
Yep.
Marion's a lot of money for them, making a lot of money at the gate, and it's the smaller schools. I mean, let's face it, smaller schools need the money. They do. They need the funding, and I think that they should maybe try to regionally kind of maybe work that out in the future, but that's kind of way down the line here. Once like Coop said, way down the line until they figure out the crossovers and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, and Berwick's also been mentioned about possibly coming in, so you're looking at some possible big time changes in 2016. But once again, getting back to 2014, the season that we're looking at, we already talked a little bit about the preseason poll. And, there's a lot of talented athletes out there
Yep.
in the AFL this year. So, looking at these teams, looking at the preseason poll, we're going to talk a little bit about a few players to watch. Two that jumped out at me. Number one was Wyatt Clements from Lehigh. If people in the Anthracite Football League do not know who this guy is, Wyatt Clements, you'll know him after week one. I promise. This kid is a stud. He's stud running back, stud linebacker. Got to think that there is Division I interest out there for a player of his caliber. What he did last year, as just a sophomore, was extremely impressive in a bigger league, playing bigger teams. So I think he's someone that you really want to keep an eye out for this year. Another guy who jumped out at me, actually on the basketball court last year, who I think can make a huge impact this year, is Tevin Murray from North Schuylkill. I believe he's about 6'5", wide receiver, super athlete, can run, can jump, very fluid. And, you throw in the fact that they have a lot of weapons around him. He's not going to be a guy that is, I don't think they're going to be able to, double team or, be able to specifically plan around him because of all those weapons that North Schuylkill has. So those are two guys that I think are really guys you want to watch for this year. Who are some guys you're looking at?
Real quick, Pat, I can also tell you that Tevin Murray is an outstanding left-handed pitcher. And I know that from the first game. I think he threw a no-hitter against us this year. So he's a three-sport stud.
Yeah, and we love that. The AFL, you have these 2 and 3 sport athletes that some of the schools, smaller schools, and these guys go out there and do it all, and we absolutely love to see that. So that's Murray. Once again, to use the same term, the kid's a stud athlete.
Yeah.
He really is, and it's exciting to see what he's going to be over the next 2 years.
I'm gonna kind of take a page from your notebook, Pat, and go with another Lehigh guy, and that's Tyler Crum. Crum has his versatility athletically is right up there with anybody as well. He's a big target as a wide receiver. He's an even better defensive back in my opinion. Last season he had 24 catches, 331 yards, 3 touchdowns. The kid's, he's kind of has that wiry frame, but he's put on some weight over the years. I'm sure as you know on the basketball court, he's not bad as well.
He's not bad.
But I think he's a kid that Tyler Cannon, another returner quarterback, what we'll get into later with the Lehigh preview, a returning quarterback, he's going to be probably his main target on offense in the passing game. Big addition for Marion this season is Angelo Mascornick. In my opinion, was Shenandoah Valley's biggest weapon last season. He's now at Marion. He's a 6'2", 195, athletic, fast, smart, knows the game, has been playing the game for a while, has been getting field experience with Shenandoah, who's been a historically very productive program in the Anthracite League since they've been in. He had 20 catches for 328 yards last year as well. This kid is not only good on offense now. Stan DeCosta and his staff have moved into a defensive end position where he's going to be a very effective pass rusher. He's going to cause some problems on defense. You got a kid that size. I mean, 6'2", 195 is a pretty good size for a defensive end in the Anthracite League. It is, and especially with his speed, he can cause some problems. Last person I want to mention is Antonio Madera. This kid last year for Jim Thorpe was a real X factor. They run that pistol, that spread offense. They run him from the slot through the middle, and he would just slash and cut and make all kinds of speed moves. As a freshman in the defensive backfield, he was great. I think this is going to be a breakout season for him last year. He had averaged 9 yards a carry, only 25 carries, but every time he touched it, he made something happen. So I really think that Antonio Madera is going to be a big asset to Jim Thorpe, and hopefully he shows the kind of talent that he does. But those 3 guys, in my opinion, are going to be some breakout players this year.
Speaking of Crum and Mascornick, familiar for them for the basketball court.
Yeah.
And Mascornick, one of the most impressive things that I saw from him last year when we were playing at Shenandoah with Panther Valley at Shenandoah in basketball. Going into the fourth quarter, I think we had maybe about a 16-point lead, and Mascornick just absolutely put Shenandoah on his back and almost single-handedly, brought them back for the win. It ended up being about a 2-point game. But the fourth quarter, just the competitive nature that he had in that situation was extremely impressive. And obviously he brings that to the football field as well.
Yep.
Who are you looking at this year, Coop?
Going along with Coach Hurley said here, guy that we didn't hear much from last year, but I think he's going to be a big part of the Anthracite League this year, a big part of the Blue Mountain offense, and that's going to be running back William Horn. Only about 40 carries last year, averaged close to 7 yards per carry as Bernstein's backup. They lost William Bornstein from last year, who was the main part of their offense. Someone has to step up, be that featured back, carry the load. So I'm interested to see what William Horn's going to do coming to his senior season now as a featured back. So, and the other kid that I like, actually love, and I got to follow him a couple times last year through radio, is North Schuylkill linebacker Major Jordan. And he erupted on the scene last year as a freshman. Just absolute stud defensively, sideline to sideline linebacker, and as good as it gets. And this year I'm really interested to see what kind of expanded role he gets in the offense now that some guys have departed. And North Schuylkill is going to do a lot of committee stuff with the running backs. A lot of guys are going to be touching the ball. So really interested to see. I know he's going to be fabulous on defense again. I want to see what Major Jordan's going to bring offense this year for North Schuylkill.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember last year sitting here, and at that time, Matt Davis said, one name that everyone out there needs to know is Major Jordan.
Yep.
And at that time, he was just a freshman, and just in 1 year, you can see what type of special athlete he really is.
That was coming off of the Schuylkill Haven game last year, where they did a great job of shutting down Casella, which is a chore in its own. And he must have 20 tackles that game, just phenomenal. So I think he's going to be right there again this year for them.
And as we go on, what we're looking forward to see is who are going to be those people that jump out that we don't know, because there's some players out there in the AFL that they're going to break out this year, and we're not going to talk about them tonight because we don't know them. Last year at this time nobody was talking about RS2.
Yeah.
And
RS2.
Ryan Saunders completely tore it up for Jim Thorpe. So it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. Quick sidebar: we do have a Twitter account at Coal Region F-Ball. It's actually at Coal Region F-Ball. Feel free to send us any questions. We always like to respond either within the show or over our Twitter account. Overall, what we're going to do is kind of take a look at each team right now, and then we'll take a little break and come back and talk about the opening week's games. But before we get into the team capsules, overall, what do you think you're kind of looking for this year? What do you think, Brad? What catches your eye this year?
I'm just looking forward to see how this all unfolds. Like I said, you got 7 teams I think that could really win this league, and it's like I said, it's almost like the beginning of college football this weekend, but it's Friday night, so we're ready for high school, and you have those top 25 teams. You don't know who's going to do what until we get things going, and I'm excited. I mean, who's going to come out on top week 1? Who's going to make a statement? Who's going to show us that they're living up to their potential? We could sit here and talk all night about the preseason polls. Mm-hmm. Like we said, though, Jim Thorpe was 7-9 last year, and they ended up going 7-1. So I'm just excited to see the whole thing unfolds. I'm excited to see we heighten a team that in this area has always been a tough football school. Come into the Anthracite, see what they can do. I'm excited to see Blue Mountain, who's always been big and strong, seeing what they can do. I'm excited to see what the small schools handle playing the big schools. It's just one of those things this year where it's all new and we really don't know who's going to do what. And I'm just excited to see how it all unfolds. And we got 10 weeks to figure it out, and I'm just looking forward to all 10. That's pretty much what I'm looking forward to.
For me, it's the new rivalries. Who's gonna, what kind of rivalries are gonna start to form now with everybody in the same league together. I know in years past you might have played somebody in a non-league game, but now we're all in the same division. It's backyard football at its best, and so what kind of new rivalries are going to form, and how they're going to intensify throughout the season, throughout the years with the AFL now. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see who's going to be this year's Jim Thorpe. Maybe not necessarily the league champ, but that kind of became a theme for us last year, talking about Jim Thorpe. And as coaches, you kind of have a soft spot for a team like that.
Yeah.
Because that's what you preach. Like you show up, you put in the work, you let it all out there. Anything's possible, and they actually did it, which nobody expected. So I'm curious to see what team out there is going to surprise everyone and make a statement not only week 1 but throughout the year. So speaking of Jim Thorpe, defending AFL champs, what we're going to do now is kind of give a brief overview of each team. We always appreciate the feedback. We got a ton of feedback last year. It was awesome. One of the things suggestions we got was sometimes we got to keep moving along. So that's what we're going to do right now. Brief capsule of each team.
Yep.
Defending AFL champs, Jim Thorpe. Coach Hurley, obviously you're a Jim Thorpe guy.
Yeah.
What's going on over there this year?
Well, I talked to Coach Rosenberger today actually, and they had a little bit of a quarterback controversy, and Shane Snisky will be starting for Jim Thorpe on Friday night. and Dean Richards will see some time as well, but Snitsky is the starting quarterback, replacing Ryan Saunders with 2,500 yards of total offense last season. They also have to replace Deontay St. Hill, who had over 1,000 yards of offense. Center Mike Rogers, who led their offensive line. Obviously, they had a great rushing attack. Basically, they have a lot of skill guys back. I mean, a lot of skill guys. They have Madera back, they have Robbie Heller back, Ryan Calla back, Robbie Geisinger, and Vidi, their linebacker slash fullback, who's a beast. He's right up there with Wyatt Clements as one of the top linebackers in the league this year, as far as I'm concerned. And they have 5 offensive starters back, 8 defensive starters back, and the question mark I have them is their offensive defensive line. They have all the skill guys in the world. Offensive coordinator Frank Miller has a lot to work with. I don't know. There's not enough footballs to go around for that team as far as I'm concerned. But I really think that they're going to go back to, like they did last season, defensive approach. Everybody talks about their offense, but their defense is really what got them back. Their defense the previous years, they were 1-9. The 2 consecutive 1-9 seasons was very porous, to say the least. And I think that they're getting back to that red swarm defense that made them so popular with winning all those anthracite championships. So I believe that 8 stars on defense is going to be key for them, and just to try to spread the ball around. Once again, I think they're going to be a very competitive team.
All right, cool. Moving on, Schuylkill Haven. Schuylkill Haven, boy, made a big time statement last year, and they returned a ton of guys. And Coop, I was shocked to see, knowing Schuylkill Haven's history and how much success that they've had. They're in the mix every year, and they're won back-to-back district titles. I was kind of surprised to see that.
Yeah, you're right. They've never won back-to-back district titles, and I think a lot of times is they'll win a district championship with the big group of seniors, and then they'll kind of have to take a step back and get there again. Last year they won a district championship with a great group of juniors, and they're back. And senior quarterback Brian Fink and senior running back Will Casella, and that's all you really need to talk about with those 2 guys. Combined last year for 3,700 yards of offense, 2,270 yards for Casella running the ball, and another 1,300 from Fink at the quarterback position. So you know what you get when you play Schuylkill Haven. They're going to line up, they're going to punch in the mouth, and they're going to run the football. And and the way they won the district championship last year was pretty easily. I mean, they cruised to the title. They got to be heavy favorites, maybe not to win the AFL, but they have to be heavy favorites to return and repeat as District 11 champion. So I think that never won back-to-back district title could go away this year for the Hurricanes because they're loaded.
That's a pretty smart.
Yeah.
I think everybody's thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a lot of offense returning, and we've seen Casella enough, and he's just a power running back, and he doesn't need much of a hold. He's going to carry defenders with him, and and when he doesn't get it, Fink's going to tuck in and take off, and they're just tough to defend. So.
Yeah, they're very impressive. Impressive.
They added another weapon this year with the transfer from Nativity. Nativity's quarterback Daniel Lozada will come over now and play, and how they're going to use him will get to be determined. Yeah. Is that going to free Fink up to maybe move around the field? They're going to move Lozada around, but it's just another weapon that they can add to their offense. So.
Yeah, as if they didn't have enough, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm looking forward to their matchups within the AFL when they match up with Lehigh and Blue Mountain, North School. We're going to see some great games.
Exactly.
For a small single A school, if anybody could go and beat the big schools, it's definitely Schuylkill Haven this year.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of single A, next we're going to talk a little bit about Shenandoah. Coach Randy Maximic had a lot of success at Shenandoah as a player, and now he had his first full off season. Last year he took over late. And, that's got to be tough. But having a full off season certainly has to help. We mentioned Angelo Maskornik, so obviously that loss hurts when you lose a playmaker of that ability. But Ian McCall threw for over 1,700 yards last year as a sophomore. Extremely impressive. Last year, every week we were talking about Ian McCall here on the Cole Region Football Thursday Night Tailgate. But I think 4 names that are going to go a long way in determining how Shenandoah is going to do this year. Nick Gursky, Clarence Gritza, Nick Krasinski, and Jeff Hillinger. They got 4 to 5 linemen back, those 4 guys you just mentioned. And, if they can line up toe-to-toe with some of the teams in the Anthracite League, and, if they could run the ball a little more than they did last year, and, defensively, if they could stop the run a little bit more than they did last year, because a lot of those passing yards by Ian McCall were out of necessity. They were in situations where they had to throw, and I think they want to look to, shore things up on the defensive front and offensively look to run the ball more. But those returning linemen, I think, are really going to determine how Shenandoah's season plays out. So next we got North Schuylkill, we mentioned Haven, and speaking of weapons, North Schuylkill, there's absolutely no shortage of weapons there. They seem to have it all.
No, yeah, and like any football coach will tell you, it all starts up front with them. And I did a little research in their top linemen, and this is pretty crazy. You have a guard at 260, a guard at 203, a center at 225. All three tackles are 275 plus, and their tight end is 232. So,
They're not going to run into a bigger line.
no,
That's
apparently
okay.
not unless they're playing Penn State on any Friday nights. But yeah, and they're all experienced. I think they're a very senior leading group. They're smart guys. They're obviously tough guys. You're playing with Schuylkill, you're tough. I mean, you're born, you're bred tough. That's just the way it is up there. And offensively, they averaged 28.9 points per game last year, 338 total yards of offense. They got Bobby Grigas back, an experienced quarterback. He's a junior. Like you said, Tevin Murray's going to be their guy, but they also have three other receivers in that receiving core that are experienced. And Wally Hall thinks that they can be they're the deepest core in the league. And Grigas, you give Grigas that many weapons and all the time in the world, who knows? I mean, and also Hall mentioned that they're not just going to be that turn and hand it off kind of offense. They're going to go in shotgun. They're going to play action. They're going to hand off when they're going to go in the center at sometimes too. So when you have a line like that protecting you at all times, there's sky's the limit as far as I'm concerned. I mean, like you said, it all starts up front. Those guys are then in turn playing on defensive line as well, and that they have 6 or 7 guys that they can rotate at each spot on offense and defense in that front four, type deal. So they're going to be very deep, and there's a reason why they had 7 first place votes. I mean, these coaches know what's coming back. Mm-hmm. They watch film. They know. These guys sit in their basement and watch film in the summer of last season. What can I do to beat this team? What can we do better? You guys know that. And I really think that they're poised for another title run. I think last year they were up there too. They were maybe a little young last year. Some injuries happened like they do. But I think this year going in, they have the depth at all those offensive line spots and defensive line spots to really give some teams some trouble. And I really think they're poised for another anthracite run if they can stay healthy.
Yeah, they're certainly a team. I look at the Anthracite League, and they're a team that I think could make a run and make it into the state playoffs.
Yeah.
That's got to be in the back of their minds. Obviously, you focus on week to week and focus on your league and your districts, but they seem to have everything in place to really be playing late in the season, week 13, week 14, something to that effect. As they were a few years ago, under Coach Geist.
Yeah.
So moving on, Minersville coming off a rough year, looking to bounce back.
Yeah, rough year's kind of an understatement. They did struggle last year. Good news is they're returning a bunch of players. They really are. Coaches are confident about the guys coming back. Skill position guys. They're returning their quarterback, John McGreen. A couple of running backs returning, Dylan Steven and David Schultz, and wide receiver Brian Brennan. They also have some offensive linemen returning, some of their defensive players returning, and that was their biggest problem last year. Last year they had a hard time defensively stopping anybody. They did some math today. They were outscored 353 to 62 in the AFL last year. So there's only the only place Minersville can go is up this year, and I think you will see that. Now that they're some guys with some varsity experience under their belt, and right now they're looking to get that next level, which is to compete into the AFL, and not necessarily worry about wins, losses yet, but just be in ball games. And I think you're going to see a big improvement from Minersville, but they have a lot of work cut out from them.
Yeah, and speaking of, I think a team in a similar boat, Panther Valley.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned about Minersville and their struggles on defensive last year. The same holds true for PV. I mean, they scored points, but they had a tough time stopping teams, and they gave up a lot of points. But hey, enter Kid Genius, Coach Matt Davis, Kid Genius, who was the defensive coordinator, last year's co-host of the Collegiate Football Thursday Night Tailgate, defensive coordinator Panther Valley a few years back when they had some real solid teams, entering his first year at Panther Valley, and the numbers are up. They had, looking at the roster, they had 55 kids on the opening roster, which is fantastic. As a new coach, that's always priority number one.
That's a huge step right off the bat.
Yeah,
absolutely. And out of those 55, I believe the seniors, there's only about 7 or 8 seniors.
Yeah.
So
a lot of underclass, especially the freshman and sophomore level,
Yeah.
which is nice.
yeah, so it looks like first part of the mission has been accomplished. What can we expect out of Panther Valley this year? PV needs some playmakers to emerge. They really do. Last year, Kyle Ferryman, Richard Nace.
Yeah.
You have two kids that every time they touch the ball, they were a threat to go to distance, and they both rushed for over 1,000 yards. Were able to help PV put up a good amount of points last year. As we mentioned earlier, the defense was the issue. But you got to think Coach Davis is going to really prioritize shoring things up on the defensive end. But we got to see if any playmakers can emerge from the Panthers. Some of the names that we talked about last year that they were younger. Some of these receivers like an Anthony Mahalik or a Sikio, Jake Suveg. Now with another year under their belt, they really need to step up. And Ryan Schubeck. Ryan Schubeck is he's one of the best athletes in the league.
Yeah.
Wrestler made it to states as a fullback and as a defensive lineman. He's one of the best defensive players in the Anthracite League, and I'm curious to see what his expanded role is going to be like on offense for the Panthers this year. So if any of those playmakers can emerge, can PV be one of those teams that can surprise some teams? Time will tell, but it'll be interesting to see how Coach Davis does in his first year at the helm.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of Panther Valley, one of their rivals, Marion Colts. Coach, we got looks like we got a lot coming back in Colt Country.
Yeah, basically when Marion's defense is good, they're really good. 2 years ago, 2012, they only let up around 11 points per game. They had that showdown with Tamako in Week 10 for the Anthracite League title. Tamako came out on top, but when Marion's defense is good, they're good. They have a ton of people coming back. They have Ethan Kaczynski, who's down there starting quarterback. He took over for KJ Stern last year after Stern had some shoulder problems. Stern's going to be moved to tailback now. He will come in and run some quarterback packages, but I think Stan DeCoste and his staff want to put Stern back at the tailback spot so they can utilize his speed. He's really shifty. He's a really great athlete, and they're going to put him back there. You also got, like I said, Skornik, a receiver, and Nico Augusti. I mean, Augusti after Augusti after Augusti after Augusti, and every one of them can run and jump and catch. Who knows what else they could do? When they go on a date, they probably lay their jacket out for their over puddles and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, the Augusti guys, they always are great kids. They always seem to play well, and they're fast, and so they have another Augusti in the slot. It seems he's gonna play defensive back as well. I coached, actually did a preview for Marion for the Times News, and I had a very lengthy conversation with Coach DeCoste, and he was a little concerned about replacing their V in the defense, which was their two linebackers and their nose guard. Nose guard was Stephen Hall, who was a great nose guard last season, and then obviously Times News Defensive Player of the Year, Lucas Damien, who's now at Duquesne playing Division I football, and Sam Budowski, who's another really, really great guy for Marion, a linebacker. So they have those spots to fill, but Marion always has talent. We know that. They have speed, they have talent. It's just whether they can stay healthy. Last year they couldn't stay healthy, but they went on that Eastern Conference run where they ended up, I think they beat Muncie and Mono in the Eastern Conference to win the Eastern Conference Championship, single A. So I think it all comes down to how well Kaczynski can play. I mean, he's got another year now. He's stronger. He's older. Threw for over 500 yards in those 2 games, led them to the victory. So now I think they have an established signal call, and they'll be able to do some damage.
And with the addition of Skornik and Augusti on the outside, I mean, the kid's poised for a monster season throwing the ball.
Yeah. So I think
weapons.
I think they're going to have they should have a solid team. No doubt about it.
All right, one of the additions to the AFL this year, Blue Mountain. Blue Mountain, they're going to be a force right off the bat. We talked about it last year with something that's going to, will Blue Mountain affect the league? And we said that they're going to be a contender every year just based on their numbers. You just look at the amount of athletes that they have, coming out on a year-to-year basis. They're going to step right in, and they're going to be, a major player in the AFL.
Yeah, and going back to the coaches poll, with them coming in, I believe, 3rd or 4th, it kind of surprised me because, like you said, I think it's based on just numbers alone and past reputation because they did lose their quarterback and their running back from last year. So Shane Grapsey and Bornstein are both gone, which was the large part of their offense.
Oh, we're talking about them every week.
Yeah,
last year.
so you're coming in where you lost your two best players, and you're still getting all this respect in the AFL based on whether it be reputation, numbers, whatever it may be. But it's going to be interesting to see how Blue Mountain comes in and does fit in this AFL. They played in the tough Berks League last year, Berks Section 2, 4-6 last year overall, 3-3 in their section. So we talked about William Horn a little bit earlier. He's going to be the guy that's going to come in and carry the load. And also running back wide receiver Dakota Roberts will return. He's going to be a big part of their offense. They have a nice tight end by the name of Zach Martin, who's going to look to contribute also. So, first year really getting involved with Blue Mountain. We don't really know much about them yet. Looking forward to covering them a few times and seeing how they fit into this whole scheme.
Yeah, one thing that jumps out right away, we did AFL champs last year, Jim Thorpe, Blue Mountain beat them 49-19.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
right. And they were 4-6.
Yeah,
4-6.
Yeah,
so
don't let last year's record fool you at all.
No,
in the Berks League, there was a little bit of a different ball game, and Haven, they gave Haven everything they can handle as well.
Yeah.
36-30, I believe, was the final of that game. Blue Mountain's going to be a major player in the AFL. So a team that became a major player in the AFL, and this is nobody pegged Jim Thorpe, but last year when we sat here, all of us kind of thought Monty was a team that maybe would take that next step, and they certainly did, making it to the Eastern Conference Championship last year. Unfortunately, at that time they didn't have Dylan Maymod, who was their all-everything quarterback, who just had a monster season available to them, and Marion defeated Monty in the Eastern Conference Championship, avenging an early season loss. But, Monte, we know they lost Maymod, but they also lost some quality linemen. I mean, you talk about Tyler Cavenus, and everybody knows him. Yeah. But they also lost Stephen Belusky and Josh Kashmar. And, when Maymod was getting all those yards, those are the guys, clearing the way for him. Monte has skilled players. They got Jason Richmond back. They got Mason Evans back, Mason Evans back. And those guys were athletes that can make plays last year. Matt Yansena, I'm familiar with him from the basketball court. He's an impressive athlete as well. What I'm curious to see is how this line gels, because I think that's going to really determine how Monty does this year. Can they have guys step in for those three guys that were real solid for them that graduated? So at Monty, it's going to be very interesting to see, and I think the line's going to go a big way in determining how the season plays out for them. Speaking of line, team that always has a solid line right across the board, Tamaqua, let's talk about them. Last year finished super strong. Yeah. And last year at the end of the year, we're talking about here was like, how's Tamaqua not in playoffs? Yeah. It's a shame the way the system and things worked out, but we already went over all that. But how do Raiders look in this year?
Well, like you said, they finished strong, 4-game win streak last year. Obviously, if they didn't have some injuries, I think they would have been a lot better. They lose their quarterback Edmonds. They lose Tyler Hope, who in my opinion was the best running back, maybe with Casella last year in the league, and Vander Martin, Dustin Vander Martin, and they have to replace those guys. I mean, those were their three guys. I mean, Vander Martin didn't play that many games either. He only played 4 games, but I think he had like 9 or 10 touchdowns in 4 games.
Oh, he was such a threat.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, they have a pretty strong offensive line, defensive line coming back. They did lose one of their very, very experienced and maybe one of the most talented linemen in Aaron Grega, to a pretty gruesome injury in the preseason. He hurt his ankle pretty bad, and he's out. Yeah, he's out for the season, and so that hurts him. But I think they're going to depend on their defense again. I mean, like I said, just like Marion, they're good. When Tamaco's defense is good, they're good. They're good too, and they have a strong linebacking core with the Skripko brothers, Trevor and Tyler, who have been a constant since they've been in the Tamaco program at the linebacker spot. And Bud Moore is another kid that had some success last year. He's going to be the other linebacker, and they have some talented defensive linemen. Defensive backs, I think they have about 2 starters back, Dylan Baddock being the most experienced there. And Coach Bonner said he really improved a lot and is expected to be an impact for them. I also think that offensively is where they have where I think that they're going to have some question marks. They got a kid of the name of Ernie Shilko, a real tough kid coming in trying to take over for Tyler Hope. Before that, they had Nonamaker and all these, they've always had this just caliber running backs there, strong running backs. Now Shilko's trying to come in, and he has his work cut out for him. And they're going to a freshman quarterback at Thad Zuber. And, Thad is a very athletic kid. Coach Bonner speaks very highly of him. But in my opinion, out of all those teams, especially the top 7, Tamak was the biggest question mark to me, because anytime you have a freshman quarterback and you're throwing him to the wolves, against all these teams, Lee Heighton, Blue Mountain, Jim Thorpe, Marion, all these programs with all these defensive ends and defensive tackles chomping at the bit every play, and you got a freshman out there.
And opening with North Schuylkill.
Yeah, I mean, you got
go to Fountain Springs. Welcome to the AFL.
Everybody has scrimmages, but game time with all those people running out, all that adrenaline. You got, like you said, you got 5 nasty big guys from North Schuylkill coming at you every play, saying whatever they say on the football field. You know what I mean? It's just gonna be interesting to see how he reacts and how Tamakwa handles it, and But I think that they have enough experience and enough leadership to get the young quarterback through it. It's only going to help them in the future, obviously, but it's just going to be exciting to see how they handle all that, especially with a freshman quarterback.
It really is. I mean, I think Tamak was saying that they're the one team that you look at that top 7, and you wonder what they're going to be, because boy, if a playmaker develops there, they're gonna have the horses up front.
Yeah.
And they always do since Coach Bonner's been there. Last team we're going to talk about is Lee Heighton. Lee Heighton joining the AFL this year, and they're coming in and getting a ton of respect right off the bat. Ranked 2nd in the preseason poll. No surprise to us. They got a ton of guys coming back. 2 of the AFL teams they played last year, they beat the AFL champ Jim Thorpe. They beat Marion, who was the Eastern Conference champ. So Lee Heighton's not a team that's not familiar with these AFL teams. They've played many of them over the years, and I think not only the Lee Heighton team and coaches, but the community is really going to like these Friday night atmospheres, because let's face it, when Lee Heighton's playing Pocono East on a Friday night, you don't have an atmosphere.
No.
It's not there. And they're going to have it this year. They're going to have it every week. And, it's exciting. Coach McCarroll doing a fantastic job at Lee Heighton. We mentioned Wyatt Clemens, stud. Running back, linebacker, going to be one of the best players in the AFL. You mentioned Tyler Crum coming back, and their quarterback Can. Lee Heighton has a lot of guys there coming back with a lot of experience. Razika, the wide receiver, and Lee Heighton. I can't wait to see how they do against this AFL slate, because it's going to be exciting. They open up with Monte Area, so right off the bat, Monte Area. It's been a while since those 2 teams played, so they're going to get they're going to see what Lee Heighton's all about.
Yeah, Lee Heighton is just going to be shocked to get on a bus and be off it in a half hour. We're here. It's time to play.
East Stroudsburg North.
Not heading
20 miles from New York.
So,
what?
Yeah, Lee Heighton, and I'm sure their fans are going to love that too.
Yeah.
When they get to travel, they don't have to pack up and take an hour and a half haul or an hour haul. So, I'm sure it's going to, like you said, it's going to be great for the Heighton fans, the Heighton players, everybody. It should be fun.
It really is. So, hey, there's your capsule of the teams for this year, this upcoming season. What we're going to do is take a quick break. We'll come back, and we will preview the Week 1 games. We're back. This is Cole Region Football's Thursday Night Tailgate. This is our inaugural show of the 2014 season. This is our 2nd year doing the show. What we're going to do now is take a look at the Week 1 matchups with the addition of Blue Mountain and Lee Heighton in the AFL. What we're going to have every week, we're going to have a team playing out of conference. This week, it's going to be Marion. Marion's playing Williams Valley. There's a game that you're going to cover, Brad.
Yeah.
So this should be interesting. Williams Valley, obviously different conference, but they've been successful over the years.
Yeah, I think they only have 3 losses in the last 2 seasons. They've been very successful. Them and Tri-Valley have been battling up there in that area for the last couple of seasons for the best team up there. They play in that Tri-Valley League. Marion's coming in and just wanting to make a statement, and it's a tough non-league opponent right off the bat. I mean, like you said, it's the first week of the season, so neither team know what's going to happen. You can't really depend on what was last season. Like you said, it all depends on how these kids react to that first Friday night football game. And it's at Marion. Anybody that's been to a football game at Marion knows that they're going to have a lot of people there to support them.
Sure.
And Williams Valley, as I've covered them in the past, they always have a great following as well. They always have those tough kids up there that are going to school and then going and baling hay right after school and
They're tough,
working
hard-nosed
hard in the
kids.
summer. And it's funny. I've talked to coaches from there. It's like, oh, we don't have this kid for this certain time because it's farm season, and it's no word of a lie. That's what they do. They work for their parents and farms, and that's why they're so big and so strong. But very tough test for Marion out the gate, and I think it all depends, like I mentioned before, on their quarterback Ethan Kuczynski, if he can really bring in early for them and show that leadership that he showed at the end of the year when they won the Eastern Conference and against a tough non-league opponent. So I think everyone's looking forward to that matchup, non-league, but I think it's something that some other people are looking at to see how Marion reacts to that.
Yeah, what do you think, Coop? Should be interesting, huh?
Yeah, like I said, non-league and two good teams facing off right at the bat. So, and, probably one of the more evenly matched on paper games of week one.
Yeah.
So it should be a good one.
Yeah, I got to think Upper Marion Coach Lacoste has been stressing about the importance of a good start.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at last year, and Marion ends up the season 7-5,
Yeah.
Eastern Conference champs, and boy, they really struggled to start the year, and it almost buried them, and then they were really able to rally and make a run, and I'm sure they're hoping not to put themselves in that position again. So although it is a non-league game, it is a big game. It's an evenly matched team. It's a very big game, for both teams, but specifically I think for Marion, with their high expectations this year. Okay, next we got one of our new teams to the AFL, Blue Mountain. We got Blue Mountain going to Shenandoah. Blue Mountain is picked fourth. Shenandoah was picked last in the preseason poll. So obviously, just looking at this on paper, you got to think, Blue Mountain has the upper hand. It's going to be interesting to see how their inaugural AFL game goes.
Yeah, like you say, coming in, Blue Mountain, heavily favorites coming into the game based on last year, based on what's returning and everything else. But like we always said, it's week one, and who knows what's going to happen in week one. Shenandoah is at home. Blue Mountain has to make the trip down there. So, like I said, it's Blue Mountain's first show in the AFL, and they're going to want to make a strong statement and see what they have offensively after losing Grapsy and Bornstein. So, big test right at the gate for the Blue Devils.
I think the key is anytime you have a season where you struggled, prior, you always want to come out and just be competitive.
Sure.
Blue Mountain, Jim Thorpe, Haven, their first 3 games. I mean,
Brutal.
they're not getting any love from the football gods here in the
No,
first 3
brutal
weeks.
opening schedule, and I feel like
Yeah.
we're in the same talking about the same thing last year.
Yeah.
Shenandoah, just a brutal opening stretch.
Yeah, so I think the goal is to come out, play hard, be competitive, not get totally blown out all 3 of those games, have some positive things happen, and maybe they can use that after those 3 games and maybe earn a couple of wins, maybe middle, late season. But the key is for Shenandoah is just try and be competitive. That's it. Just play hard football, and like I said, try not to get blown out. But Blue Mountain, like Coop said, heavily favored and expected to win this game.
Yeah, and I think as we mentioned in the capsules, Shenandoah's line is really going to play a big part in them. Staying in these games with the bigger schools or teams that are picked to do a little better, like week one. So they're going to be relying heavily on the line to slow down Blue Mountain's attack a little bit and hopefully get something going a little bit with their running game. Third game we're going to take a look at is Jim Thorpe at Minersville. I think this game's interesting. You got the defending AFL champs, which are right back picked at number 7 again, and Minersville, Coach Mason has really produced some good teams over the years. He gets the most out of his kids. They obviously struggled last year, but those kids fought every single week, and they got a lot of those kids that have been through that grinder last year, and now they're back. And Minersville is a team that I'm really looking to see how they're going to come out this year. I really am, but I think opening up at home, against Jim Thorpe is really going to be interesting and tell us a lot about where these 2 teams are at.
Yeah, I think anytime you open with a team that's coming in with a lot of new features, new quarterback, new this, new that, it's you're not really sure what you're getting. I know all these teams watch each other scrimmage and all that, but like I said, if you're opening with the North Schuylkill or Schuylkill Haven, you know exactly what's coming at you.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt there.
With Jim Thorpe, Minersville says we don't really know how good they are yet. So right there, you're kind of feeling confident. You say we can play with them because they haven't proven anything yet. They lost a lot of players or returned a lot of players. Basically, Minersville's stress defense. They got to keep teams out of the end zone. They killed them last year, and if they can do that, move the ball a little bit offensively, could steal one in week 1.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you right now, Minersville's a tough place to play.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
a very tough place to play. I mean, I
And
don't.
they always have tough kids.
Yeah.
Always.
If Minersville, it doesn't matter if Minersville's 10-0 or 0-10, people are gonna come and watch them play. Everybody's gonna come there that night. They're gonna support their kids, like you said. They have tough kids, hard-nosed kids. So it's a nice test for Jim Thorpe out of the gate. I mean, obviously Jim Thorpe's favored. They have the athletes. They have the system with those athletes to succeed. They're favored, but it's a nice test for them right off the bat. They're not getting a cupcake. They're getting a road game against a league opponent, against a Minersville team that has done some damage over the years. And you know, they have, like, when we were going over they have athletes. They do. They have some players.
Sure.
They have some players, and like you said, Coach Mason, one of the best coaches in the area, always gets the best out of his kids, like you mentioned. And yeah, that's one of those games where if something unusual happened, I don't think people would be like, oh, well, you know, maybe that could have happened. You know, we could see that happening. So, you know, I don't think anybody would be totally surprised if Jim Thorpe went in there and had their way with him, but I don't think anybody would be totally surprised either if Minersville made it a game.
I think it's gonna be a tight game.
Yeah.
I do. Being at Minersville, you know, knowing the guys at Minersville has back. McBreen with a year under his belt at quarterback. The type of teams that Coach Mason typically produces and what he gets out of his players, and you know, if Jim Thorpe, you know, being the defending champ is overlooking Minersville, I do think they're making a mistake.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a very interesting game. And, you know, if there's going to be an upset in week one, I can kind of see that this one, I'm not saying Minersville going to go out there and win.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, you know, it's going to be a game, and it certainly wouldn't surprise me for, you know, Minersville to give Jim Thorpe everything that they can handle.
Exactly.
Schuylkill Haven coming to Lansford for Coach Davis's first game. Will Casella, Ryan Fink, you're going to hear those names all year, just like we did last year. Panther Valley, what names are we going to hear this year? Well, it's going to be interesting to see. You know, they, like we mentioned earlier, they have 55 kids on the roster. We need some of them to emerge. You know, Ryan Schubeck, you got to say that he's, you know, right now their most established player. But you know, who's going to step up? You know, PV has some linemen with returning experience, which against a team like Haven obviously helps a lot because we know what Haven's going to do. You know, they're going to line up and they're going to run the ball and they want you to stop them. So, you know, is PV going to be able to slow down Haven?
Like I said, a huge test coming out of the gate. You know,
It is, and a huge test for any team.
Yeah, we kid before with the boy genius and you know, and Coach Davis, and he is a great defensive mind, and you know, he's gonna have to figure out some nifty X's and O's to try to slow down the Schuylkill Haven offense. You know, some kids have to play big up front. A kid like Luke Hunsinger has to do a great job on that front defensive line. And the other part of it, they have to be good enough offensively to try to keep Casella and Fink off the field, you know, on an offensive standpoint, and keep the ball away from them. So, can they get something going offensively to, you know, chew up some clock, to move the ball, play field position a little bit, and not just have, you know, Schuylkill Haven come at them over and over and over again. I covered that game last year for radio when Haven played Panther Valley, and the Panther Valley kids played hard, but you know, Schuylkill Haven was always in the 3rd and 1, you know, and they pick up 3 yards, and then now we got to go back to work for 4 more downs, you know, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and they just couldn't get off the field. And when they got the ball, they couldn't, you know, they were a quick strike offense, so if they did score, it was usually quick, or else they'd be off the field quick, and then Haven would come right back and just start grinding them again. So, you know, the Panthers got to figure out a way to stop them, got to figure out a way to get off the field, and then move the ball offensively. But you know, not one that you're looking forward to as your first game as a new head coach.
Tough debut.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this
tough.
is kind of like if you're so, you know, when you're a freshman in high school, you're so excited to be in high school on your first day, and the teacher coming in and slapping a pre-calculus test on your desk and saying, "Here you go. This is your first day of freshman year of high school." I mean, tough test for Coach Davis. I think that, as we all know personally, he's very excited about this, but also very realistic about, you know, what the kind of team he's playing. I mean, you have to go in every game with the expectation that you have a chance to win, and,
Sure.
and of course he's doing that and telling his team that. But like I said, you made a great point before when we were talking about it. It's not so much how I think Panther Valley is going to compete, but how they bounce back to the different things that are going to happen during the ball game. I think if they get down quick it's how they bounce back. Maybe they come back and get a couple first downs, or show that, hey, maybe you might have did this to us, we're going to come back and we're going to get a first down or get 2 first downs, or come back and maybe force them to punt the ball maybe in the next possession. Those are the kind of things you need to take from a ball game when you're trying to rebuild a program, when you're coming against a program that just won a district title and returns their best players and has a 2,000-yard rusher and so on and so forth. So obviously Haven heavily favored. Also excited to see how Coach Davis reacts to playing a team like this in his first game. So like a couple different storylines for that game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And Coach Davis even mentioned the preseason and, you know, things that, you know, throughout interviews and questions that he was asked, you know, too many times last year, just, you know, you get beat down and, you know, a 7-0 game turns into a 21-0 game, just like that.
Yeah.
Just like that, because you get down on yourself, you lose focus, and, you know, that's going to be the thing for Panther Eye. Can you maintain focus? Can you stay the course? And you know, keep pounding away, and when you do that, you know, then you give yourself a chance. But obviously, like we said, Haven, you know, a big favorite there. You got to wonder, you know, Haven has high expectations.
Yeah.
They really do. And, you know, is there a possibility of them maybe looking forward a little bit to weeks 2 or 3, or, you know, that's always a possibility opening week. You kind of, you don't know what to expect opening week.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to be sitting here next week and there's going to be some surprises that we're talking about. We just don't exactly
Of
know,
course.
you know, what they are. But speaking of tough debuts, this is going to bring us to our game of the week. You know, and I was actually talking to Coach Davis, and I said, I don't know who has a tougher debut in the Anthracite Football League. Coach Davis in his debut playing Schuylkill Haven, or Tamako freshman quarterback, Dad Zuber.
Yeah.
Welcome to the AFL. At North Schuylkill.
Yeah.
So our game of the week is Tamako at North Schuylkill. You know, we said Tamako was a team that, you know, wouldn't surprise anyone if Tamako was there at the end of the year, standing as one of the teams that has a shot to win the league in the last 2 weeks. But, you know, it wouldn't surprise the coaches, obviously, if they kind of fell in line, you know, in the middle of the pack, which is kind of where they have them. So Tamako is one of our interesting teams, and they're going against the league favorite right off the bat. So, you know, what are you looking for in our game of the week?
I really think the way that Tamaqua plays in this game, whether they win or they lose, if it's a close game, I think Tamaqua has a shot to do some damage. I think that last season, that game with North Schuylkill was a battle, one of the best games of the year, in my opinion, in the whole Anthracite League. I think whether they win or lose this game, as long as they stay competitive and close, I think that will give their freshman quarterback a lot of confidence. I mean, if you come out here as a freshman, you're down 35-0, you're like forcing things, you're pushing things, and you're trying to make throws you're not even close to making against guys that you've never played against. With that talent level, things can get ugly fast.
Yeah.
But if you control the game, you run the ball well, your linemen are blocking well, then in turn we know Tamaqua is going to play good defense. We know that. We know that North Schuylkill is not going to get anything easy on the offensive end. Okay, so if that can control the game, maybe if it's, you know, North Schuylkill is favored. They are. They have the more experience, they have the bigger line, they have better athletes. But if Thad Zuber can control the game, they can stay close, and it ends up being a close game in the end, you know, maybe God, if it's an upset, the confidence for a freshman quarterback sky high. We'll be talking about something a lot different next week if it's an upset. But like I said, the way that Tamaqua plays in that game could really set them up for a very solid season with a freshman quarterback, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then, you know, like I said, I was in North Schuylkill last year when they played Schuylkill Haven. It was one of the best defensive performances I've seen on the year. Last year from the Spartans. I mean, they were just lights out that night. You know, shut down Casella. And for a freshman to go against a defense like that, it is going to be a tall task for him. And then on the other side of it, North Schuylkill offensively presents so many matchup problems. You know, the 6'4" Murray on the outside, and Grigas off of the play action, whether with his legs or his arm. And so Tamaqua their hands full, but the thing is, they believe they can win.
Yeah.
They think they can win this game. They think they left one out there last year that they could have had. And there's some bitterness about them not making the playoffs last year. They're coming in with a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to go in and fight North Schuylkill, and it should be a great one. Looking forward to it.
It really should.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think this is going to be, if you want to know what is Collegiate football about, what is Anthracite League football about, you go to this game. This is going to be physical.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be physical, and obviously North Schuylkill, you know, coaches poll favorite, league favorite. But Tamaqua, they don't get pushed around.
No.
You know, since Coach Bonner has been there, they do not get pushed around. Every year, they have strong, tough kids, specifically in the trenches. You know, right now, we're looking at Tamaqua. We think, all right, they don't have that Vander Martin or their hope that they've had in the past. They don't have that playmaker, but that, we know that they're going to have those guys in the trenches, and that is going to give them an opportunity, to play with these types of teams, like in North Schuylkill. So that's our game of the week. Tamaqua heading up to Fountain Springs to play the North Schuylkill Spartans, a preseason favorite for the Anthracite Football League. So that's our week 1 show. Guys, any closing thoughts?
We left one out there, Pat. The Heighton Mona area.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We touched on that one yet.
How do we miss Lee Heighton? Heighton.
Yeah,
Heighton Mona area.
I missed it too, actually. Tom, we're gonna be getting a text from Tommy tomorrow night. I can see that.
Sorry, Coach McCarroll. We apologize. We don't want to
There's so much
leave Lee Heighton out.
preseason. So many people are talking about you already.
We thought you got enough pub already.
Exactly.
But we caught it. So that's
Exactly.
We caught
You
it.
caught it.
We didn't go away
You
with
caught
that.
it. Great first
That's
week
why
catch.
you're cool.
Great first week catch. That's impressive. That's very impressive.
Well, I mean, Lee Heighton's got to be a favorite in this one.
But yeah.
Monty, they lose Maymont, Lucas Cavanus, lose some other linemen, and Lee Heighton ranks second in the preseason poll. Everybody knows what Lee Heighton has. Lee Heighton, they're really going to start getting tested, in week 3. It looks like as far as the exercise schedule. They got North Schuylkill moving there in week 3, but playing Monty area week 1. I'm going to be interested to see that what type of offense Monty runs with the new quarterback, with Mason Ryan stepping in, and with the graduation of Dylan Maymont. Is Monty going to be able to get some things going on offense? That's going to be interesting to see.
I'm excited to see the energy of the tribe. Anytime you go into a home game at Lee Heighton, it's just like it's crazy up there. It's a different atmosphere. I remember going to night games there when I was a kid, and I used to play like Central Catholic and Berwick and stuff, and it was nuts. And I'm excited to see that they have that back now. They have that back. They used to have some great football players there, and I think they're back there now. I'm excited to see their fans doing the chop and up there at Monoy, and I just want to see the kind of energy they create. Defensively, they're going to pose a lot of problems for Monoy, I think, and like you said, I'm excited to see what Monoy does to react to that. Yeah, I just think that Coach McCarroll has handled this whole thing very well. You're coming into a league and somebody picks you second. How do you handle that? That's tough for anybody. And he says the same thing every time. I'm not worried about the league we're playing. I'm not worried about the team we're playing. I'm worried about being the best Lee Heighton team that we can be week in and week out. And he has the right attitude with that, because when you have the players, you can't get caught up in any of that other stuff. You got to worry about being the best team you can be. And I think he's got that message through to his kids. They really bought in, and I'm just excited to see the on-the-field product now. I'm excited to see them take all that hype and turn it into some actual, after week 1 to see the hype, really come out on the field.
Sure. I think the main thing for the Heighton is they're not going to see anything they haven't seen. Playing in the Mountain Valley Conference and playing those big schools, they've seen every kind of athlete there is. They've seen fast, they've seen strong, they've seen the bull runners, they've seen the speed. So nothing's going to surprise them. They're going to look at Casella on tape, for example, and they probably saw something similar to that playing in that huge conference. So, so they're going to be prepared for anything you throw at them. And like I said, I covered them a few times last year. They're a tough group of kids. Wyatt's as good a linebacker as there is, and that's actually where I'm going to be this week. I'll be at Mount Airy to do that game. So looking forward to it. And Mount Airy losing everything that they lost, and they got to bounce back. And like Panther Valley, like some other Tamaqua, they have a tough opponent right off the bat too, so we'll see what happens.
All right, well, hey, it's going to be exciting to see how things play out, not just this week, but as we move forward. So that's our week 1 preview. Thanks for joining us at the Cole Region Football Thursday Night Tailgate. We will be back next week to recap the week 1's action and also to preview the week 2 games. Brad Coop, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
That's it, Cole Region Football. Thank you.